Let's take a little trip into Cannon Country, shall we? On the latest edition of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, we're breaking down the top 5 targets for the promising bright future of the Columbus Blue Jackets. Let's get this paper.
You're Locked On Fantasy Hockey, your daily podcast on fantasy hockey.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We back. Another fire episode of Fantasy Hockey Breakdowns is on tap on the latest episode of the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast, joined as always by my distinguished co-host, Mr. Steele Roden. On this side of the microphone, it's your boy, Big Flip Livingstone. Shout out, salute. Thank you so much. The everydayers doing us proper every single day, making us their first listen. We see you and appreciate you, Steele. I hope you've been appreciating all these episodes because this league-wide breakdown is nearing its finish. Our fantasy draft prep nearing the beginning. We got mock draft Mondays all September long. Steele and I will be taking a look at a bunch of different mock drafts to help you be ready for your own. So why don't we get right to it, Mr. Roden? Columbus Blue Jackets' bright future. Lot of intriguing pieces, much like the Calgary Flames. Don't know what the season is going to hold. By the way, if you missed the Flames, that was Monday's episode. Tap into the channel for all of the breakdowns. Right over to you, Steele. Who are you looking at? Top 5 in Columbus. Lots of young players on the come up here. Mute's got you hot again.
That got me hot again. It almost got me. I saw that it was on there, but don't worry. We're back and we're absolutely rolling. Look, for me, this is a very, very weak team. And I know there's a lot of things to like about them with some of the players they've got in the mix. You know, they get Sean Monahan in there now as a top line centerman, back in there with Johnny Gaudreau from the Calgary Flame days. You've got some young talent. We're going to talk about Adam Fantilli, whose season got cut short with that injury last season. You still got your no pun intended. You've still got your captain, you know, your veteran leader in Boone, Jenner, getting things done, but you've got the Russian right wingers going, Marchenko, Chinnikov, Voronkov, all these guys, whatever Kov you want, they've got it on the right side over there in Columbus. So there's a lot of intriguing pieces in this organization right now. You know, when it comes to the blue line, there's really only one target, and that's who I'm going to start with. It's Zach Werenski as the number one target off the board from this Blue Jackets organization. For me, I still wouldn't even be thinking about taking Zach Werenski until closer to the 9th or 10th round. I think there's a ton of more valuable defensemen above Werenski. There's a lot of injury concern with this player. I know he did play pretty well last year. Still missed 12 games, had 57 points in the 70 games that he played. But there's a lot of injury concern with this team. There's a lot of injury concern with this player. But when he does play, he fills all the categories out
yes, he does
very well. 202 shots last year, 130 blocks, 23 hits. You know you're going to get that out of him. Very struggle. This is a team that has struggled on special teams, specifically on the power play as well. He only had 12 power play points, and that's why, again, I'm not even looking at Zach Werenski until at least the 9th or 10th round. I believe he's actually going to be a little bit better than what we saw last year. But the injury concern plays a huge part in this player, and why I'm saying that he falls somewhere in that area of the fantasy draft. So for me, he's the number one target off the board, but there's a lot more valuable defensemen in the NHL for your fantasy team. And, honestly, he doesn't even crank really the top 20 right now in fantasy defensemen.
The Columbus Blue Jackets allowed the second most goals against in the NHL last year at 298 goals. Only the San Jose Sharks allowed more goals. So I think that's one of those full stop moments when you understand how bad that actually is, Steele. However, I'm going to take a second here and separate how bad they were for a minute and take a look at these promising young pieces. And all I got to say about this entire team is these are the names that I'm happy to augment my roster with. Aside from Werenski and Fantilli, you're going to have to get crafty with these pieces on the Columbus Blue Jackets and also hope that overall, this team does improve, and I think they'll get there, Steele. Let's talk about for a second later in the show why they will not, and it really, to me, comes undone in the blue paint. Merzlikins, Tarasov, I'm really not feeling that tandem. That's got to be a concern. By the way, shout out to Troy and all the other Columbus Blue Jackets fans. I know that's a good fan base. I do think they're going to improve, Steele. Let me get my pick out of the way first, because Werenski's number 2. Adam Fantilli is the star of this team, and he is the future. He is the guy that's going to push this team forward, and I'm very high on Adam Fantilli. So this is me personally. I understand some other people might even go after Boone Jenner first. Not in first, but Adam Fantilli is. And let me just say this. The cut short pun, not a good one on my part. I know you didn't do it on purpose, but it did happen. And what I saw from him before the cut to his leg that ended his season laceration, however you want to call it, is a player with a very projectable frame at 6'2", and now he's going to be over 200 plus pounds, 27 points in 49 games. And I'm going to stop talking because I feel like I've been rambling already. I know 115 shots doesn't jump off the page, 16 penalty minutes. I'm buying into this player's capability and upside. And I think Adam Fantilli is a breakout candidate. I really like what he has going on, Steele. And in Keeper Dynasty side of things, he probably will be the first player off the board. Anyway, I got Werenski at 2, so we're not very far off here because I agree with your takes on the blue line.
I've got Fantilli on my team right now. I was just asking you that question before we hopped on. So is he one of my keepers? And you're selling me on this one. He actually is the number 2 target for me on the board for the Columbus Blue Jackets list. And like you said, even though his season got cut short in that short amount of period that we did get to see him in the 49 games that he played, 27 points, 16 penalty minutes, 115 shots. The physicality I did not expect from him. 63 hits with 25.
He's got a bit of a mean streak, Steele.
He's got a mean streak. He's got some grit. He's got some size, like you said. If he starts to fill out a little bit more, he's still only 19, 20 years old. So much looking forward to this player. His birthday is actually coming up right at the beginning of the season. October 12th is when he'll turn 20. So happy birthday to Adam Fantilli to start the NHL regular season off and get back into shape and form. But the peripherals are, they're very good for a player who just only played 49 games. He's 20 years, like you said, he's 20 years old, soon to be 20 years old. He comes in at the number 2 position for me, and he is going to be the face of this franchise.
Yeah, and the number 1 center of the future as well.
And the number 1 center of the future. I want to talk about that number 1 center position right now when we get to the 3rd position on this list. But Fantilli, number 2 on my list. I know he's number 1 in yours, and Werenski's number 2. But I think as of right now, based on the NHL experience that Werenski has, that's why I put him over Fantilli.
That's totally fair, Steele. And again, going with a 20-year-old kid who hasn't played more than the 49 games that Fantilli has, it's risky. And we just spoke about it, again, not to bring up the Flames episode, but we spoke about it when you can sometimes play it safer with a guy like Blake Coleman over a younger guy like Sharon Govich. I'm not trying to compare all of these players together. The angle is here. It's a little bit riskier right now this season. Long-term, clear, Adam Fantilli's the choice. However, some more choices to be made right around the break, Steele. I want to talk about Boone Jenner, Gaudreau, Marchenko, all these young players on the come-up. Let's touch on the blue paint. We'll get to it all on the rest of today's episode. Make sure you smash that subscribe button. You know the drill. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts to fit your number 1 ride or die, you always find exactly what you're looking for. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. With eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. And with all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit. Only available to U.S. customers.
And thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Make sure you also go check out the Locked On NHL Podcast. They provide you with national perspective on all things across the NHL each and every day with experts and local insight on every team in the league. Available on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast, your favorite podcast platform. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Flip, there's, we've talked about the intriguingness of this team and the potential that some of their young players bring right now. I'm actually going to go to one of the veterans on their team, and it's not Boone Jenner. It is actually Sean Monahan, who comes in at number 3 for me. Sean Monahan has, in my opinion, way more value than Boone Jenner. I know Boone Jenner fills out the peripherals very, very well. Also only played 58 games last year, so that has to be taken into consideration. You have to take into consideration that he has not been healthy for the last 4 seasons. 58 games, 68 games, 59 games, 41 the year prior. He's been injured. It's been known for this. And as much as we like what he does when he does play, he just doesn't play a full season, which hurts your fantasy roster. Again, the stats are amazing for the games that he played. 35 points in 58 games, 155 shots, 119 hits, 74 blocks. He plays a strong physical game, but that takes and has taken a toll on his body that he cannot remain in the lineup on a nightly basis. For me, Sean Monahan, even though the last 2 seasons he has also struggled, not this past year, but the 2 seasons prior to that, he also struggled with some injuries. He was banged up. He actually played 83 games last year. He played more games than is possible between the Montreal Canadiens and Winnipeg Jets. But when you go back to his Calgary Flame days, he was a very healthy player. He was a strong player. He was a 55 to a 65 point caliber forward. The career high of 82 points. We're not going to see that from Sean Monahan again. But he was also playing with Johnny Gaudreau in their prime right now. He's back. He's linked up playing with Johnny Gaudreau on that top line alongside Gaudreau and Marchenko, who I might even talk about in a little bit as well.
Yes, sir.
For me, Sean Monahan has filled out the categories, the peripherals. He has a very high shooting percentage throughout his entire career, a 14% shooting percentage. He had a 15.2 last year between the Canadiens and the Winnipeg Jets. 171 shots, 44 blocks, 29 hits. For me, he is the third best option for your fantasy roster from this Blue Jackets organization.
Gotta wholeheartedly disagree with you on this one, Steele. It doesn't happen very often, but also I gotta disagree with the filling out of the peripherals, because that's just not true when it comes to Boone Jenner. Boone Jenner has filled them out much better in his career. Look at Monahan.
That's what I said. I said Boone Jenner fills out the peripherals.
Okay. Well,
yeah.
In my opinion, the value is clear here for Boone Jenner. I take him at 3 all day over Sean Monahan, who doesn't make my top 5. However, I want to give you your flowers on the point of Monahan, full season last year, returns to that 60-point level, and the Gaudreau angle you brought up. That's sneaky here. That could mean something. Maybe that's also a resurgence for Johnny Gaudreau, who I think still has value in his own right. So I'm going to say Boone Jenner at 3 and disagree with you somewhat. Although this angle with Monahan could be sneaky good, teaming up with his boy Gaudreau back from their heydays when Monahan also, I believe he had like an 82-point season back there for the Flames in one of those seasons. So maybe it's sneaky. I'm going to go with the safer route, I think, in Boone Jenner, who is also just a prototypical leader on the ice. I know that does not bring any fantasy value, but what it does for me is entrust in his ability a little bit more than Monahan's. That's just me. He comes in at number 3. However, Steele, this is where it gets a little dodgy, because look, this Columbus Blue Jackets team also has your boy Dean Evison now behind the bench. They were one of the most injured clubs over the last couple of years. I know, man, games lost. This team has just been ravaged by injury, and you alluded to it with Boone Jenner. So I'm going to spit it out. Boone Jenner at 3, and maybe you like this. I'm going to take a shot at Johnny Gaudreau at 4. I didn't know what to do with Johnny Gaudreau. 60 points last year. I know it's disappointing. 160 shots for a guy who's a shooter. Disappointing. I just think Gaudreau has a bit of a bounce back year. I think this team has a bit of a bounce back. Are they still going to be bad? Yeah. Are they going to be really bad in their own end? Oh, yeah. But they're going to score some goals still. And I think that's going to mean good things for Gaudreau. However, if you're buying into Monahan, hopefully you're buying into some of those takes I just spat out there.
Yeah, I'm also buying into Gaudreau. I'm leaving him for that fifth option.
Okay.
If Boone Jenner does come in at the number 4 target off the board for me as well. In my opinion, I don't think he's the safer option because of how injured he's been over the last few years. However, when he does play, he fills out all the categories, all the peripherals you're looking for.
He's a beaut.
The offensive production of his game he's always been, in that 35 to 45 point realm. No matter how many games he plays, he seems to always finish somewhere in that realm. Again, but the peripherals that he finishes the season with in the limited games that he plays, you gotta love the physicality, you gotta love the leadership, the confidence that he brings, the grit, the tenacity, and everything that he brings to the top 6 forward group right now. I'm not sure if, again, this is all projected. I don't know if Boone Jenner will be in the top 6 group this next season with all the young talent they've got going on. However, based on the last 3 seasons, he's still been getting over 20 minutes of average ice time at 30, 31 years old. So even though I'm really worried about the injuries that continue to progress throughout his NHL career the last 4 seasons, I love what he does when he does play. He's the number 4 target for me.
I like
the
it.
Blue Jackets organization.
Yeah, so just to recap, I got Fantilli 1, Werenski 2, Jenner 3, Gaudreau 4, and I think you had Werenski 1, Fantilli 2, Monahan 3, and you got our boy Jenner here sliding in at 4. I think the main takeaway here is, Steele, maybe not this year, maybe not next year, but very soon, all of these young pieces, and I do want to talk about this to round out the show, are going to explode at some point for this team. There is a lot of upside here, and we haven't even spoken about all their more recent draft picks, who are also looking very good, Steele. Let's get there. However, let me just hit you with this take. Their top power play unit is exciting me here. Gaudreau, Fantilli, Monahan, Kirill Marchenko, and then you got Werenski quarterbacking things. If there's a strength here this season, and I have to predict it now, I'm going to say that power play has some success. If guys like Fantilli can stick in the lineup, if Sean Monahan forms chemistry again with Gaudreau, there's a lot of ifs here, Steele. So this is risky, but I would just wanted to point out that I think they will get theirs at the offensive end because the back end, it's not pretty.
It's not pretty at all. And I'm still worried a little bit about special teams, just looking at Johnny Gaudreau, who I'm going to talk about after the break. Only finished with 1 power play goal last year. Again, he's always been a playmaker. He's always been a playmaker throughout his NHL career. He had 11. Let me pull this up. He had 17 power play assists last year, but with only 1 power play goal. So when you go in your first
goals,
2 years,
Johnny, do better, man.
Got to do a lot better. He's got to shoot the puck more. The last 2 seasons, the shooting percentage has been abysmal. 7.5 for him last year, 9.5 the year prior to that. Obviously, he had that career year, 115 points in his last season in Calgary. I believe that everyone knows we're never going to see that again from this player, but he's still in the realm, and he has the potential to put an 80-point season up in the NHL with the guys that he's playing with. Now getting Sean Monahan, Adam Fantilli, a full season with him, hopefully. They really got to get going on the power play, but he has to shoot the puck more. I say that with a lot of players. When you go the 2 years prior, 262 shots, 220 shots, down to 160, it's not good enough. I'm going to continue talking about Johnny Gaudreau after the break. We got so much more to talk about. Voronkov, Chinnikov, Marchenko, a few guys. We haven't even mentioned the goaltenders. Is that a tandem that you definitely want to stay away from? We'll give you the answer. I guess we'll give you the answer now from Cliff, but it's a yes. It's a resounding yes from both of us, actually. Stay away from the tandem in the crease right now because it's going to get ugly in the blue paint in Columbus. We're going to talk about all of that and more coming up next. This episode is also brought to you by Indeed. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to the data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. You use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. And listeners of the show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. And once again, thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Continue to hit the subscribe button, the follow button, leave a 5-star review. Flip and I appreciate all that love and support you show us Monday through Friday. Only 3 episodes a week. We do have a special coming out this Tuesday, so we actually have episodes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. So expect 4 episodes this upcoming week. But then once we get back in the month of September and throughout the entire regular season, we'll have 5 episodes a week. So make sure you're tuning into all of that content we're coming up. Mock drafts, breakdowns, everything you need to know about this fantasy upcoming season. Flip, over to you, my friend. Number 5 on the list.
I really like this player, Steele, and I watched Kirill Marchenko play in a random game, not last season, the season before, and I think he scored a shootout goal that made me immediately pay attention. He has got some hands on him, and I understand that only 137 games in the NHL isn't a big sample size, but what I have seen from him already, I'm really liking it. 193 shots last year, 23 goals in 78 games, 55 hits. He's not scared to throw the body around a little bit, Steele. And at 6'3", 200 pounds, I think that's going to come along with his game now that he is looking really confident here. And if all of the angles do come to fruition, all the ifs about Monahan, Gaudreau, and such come true, Kirill Marchenko is going to be the other beneficiary of that on that top line with those 2 players. Do we know if it sticks? No, we do not. But this guy can shoot the puck, Steele, and he's got money mitts, dirty hands, and a very creative player. I like this player a lot. I have him on my keeper dynasty team, Steele. I don't know if he's going to be a keeper, but I had him all season long last year. Let me finish it with this. Marchenko comes in at 5. But he is in the mix with a whole bunch of really promising players here. He's NHL ready. I see him producing this year 55 points, 60 points, 25 to 30 goals. I see the uptick in hits. I'm really, really liking Marchenko, and I hope you're feeling that take.
I'm feeling the take. However, I'm going back to what I said with Sean Monahan. So I've got Johnny Gaudreau at number 5. I like Marchenko as well. I think there's still a lot to see from this young man's game.
Fair.
In the Columbus Blue Jackets top 6 forward group right now. But going based off of what I said from Sean Monahan being ranked at number 3, I've got to go with Johnny Gaudreau at the number 5 target for me. It was even a toss-up about putting Gaudreau number 4 because of how much, not faith I'm putting into it, but how much belief I think that Johnny Gaudreau and Sean Monahan can get back into form together.
Yeah, you're feeling it.
I'm feeling the reunion of their Calgary Flames days when they were both coming up in the league, in their prime, and now being some of the veterans of this team to lead the guys like Marchenko, Voronkov, and others. So for me, I've got Johnny Gaudreau. I expected a way better of a season for this player as well. Finished the year with 60 points. Again, a down season from what we all expected. I expected it somewhere around that 65 to 70 point realm. However, now in the mix with Sean Monahan, I expect 75 to 80 points. I expect him to be a bigger playmaker. Look, if we're also bringing Adam Fantilli into the mix and they're on the top power play unit, we expect this team to be better. Kirill Marchenko is a goal scorer. We expect all of these things right now. Johnny Gaudreau is the playmaker of the team. He's the one who facilitates. He's the one that sets up his teammates. That he's the one getting most of the assists when it's not coming from the quarterbacking of Zach Werenski on the defensive side of things. So for me, Johnny Gaudreau, again, a lack of goal scoring. He's never been a goal scorer besides that 40 goal year he put up in that career season. A few 30+ goal seasons as well, but I expect him to get back up to a 20-25 goal range this upcoming year. I expect 55 assists, somewhere around there as well. And then it all depends on the health of this roster. You said it yourself. This is one of the most banged up, bruised teams that we saw last year. So many lost games played to injury from a lot of their players. We haven't even touched on Patrik Laine and his potential of where he might go if he's traded or if he remains with this team. It seems like he wants out of Columbus. I mean, again, both him and Pierre-Luc Dubois just I don't know. They're just banging around North America right now. It's just chipping away at almost every single team. It's incredible. But back to Johnny Gaudreau. He's my 5th target. Kirill Marchenko, he's close. He could have been in the top 5, but I need to see another great season from the young man.
That's fair. And again, this is one of those teams that I'm just going to go with my gut here. If I have to take a shot, I'm going to go with the players that I've already personally invested in. That's just me. There are a lot of young players here, Steele. Kent Johnson was a top draft pick. They just got Caden Lindstrom, 18 years old at 4th overall. He went off for Medicine Hat this year in the dub, 46 points in 32 games. They had David Jiricek. I believe he was 6th overall in 2022 on the back end. And one of the names that jumps off the page for me the most, and I sometimes hate doing this because, number one, you and I compete every year in fantasy, and others do too. Listener leagues coming up. Keep a tap for that. And you've been outperforming me, so I don't want to tip my hand here. However, the 12th overall pick in the 2022 draft, Denton Mateychuk, looked nasty for Canada at the World Juniors this year, and I have him double, triple circled. He's a big lad who can bring it offensively. He was solid for Moose Jaw. I really like this player, Steele. I think he's ready to make the jump. And if you're going to get opportunity on any team on a blue line, looking for a good blue liner, it might as well be in Cannon country where they could use a whole lot of help on that blue line. So Mateychuk, offensively gifted, 75 points in 52 games the other year. I'm looking at this player hard and heavy, Steele. Are they going to pop off this year? I don't think so. Maybe not next. But this Columbus Blue Jackets team isn't going to be bad for too much longer.
Let me just write that down real quick. What was the
name
again? I'm making sure I circle it not once, not twice, but 3 times. He's going to be on the radar. I'm hoping that I'm ahead of you a few spots in the draft so I can do what I did last year, take a couple of the guys you were eyeing at. But no, I appreciate that little tidbit. There's a few guys to keep your eye on this roster and some prospects that could get some playing time this upcoming season. Yep. That's the Columbus Blue Jackets top 5 targets. Some honorable mentions out there, like we mentioned, Marchenko from my side of things, Voronkov, Chinnikov, some of the younger guys on the right-hand side. You got to look at the eligibility as well, the dual eligibility if you're in one of those formats, one of those leagues where they can play both center or on the wing.
Good point.
Keep that in mind as well. Thank you so much for making the Locked On Fantasy Hockey Podcast your first listen every single day. Make sure you go check out Locked On NHL Podcast, part of the podcast network, your team every single day. Once again, good luck with all your summer bets. We shall see you back here again tomorrow.